Okay,
Oops.
preparing to live stream for YouTube. And I guess, yep. Okay, now we're live on YouTube. Welcome, welcome. This is the Instant Shakespeare Company and the Shaw Project today. I'm Paul Sugarman, founder of the Instant Shakespeare Company, and we're very happy to have the Shaw Project present these an Irish Tea Party with these one acts, and I will turn it over to David Cedar to further introduce it all. Over to you, David.
Hi, everybody. Yes, I decided to do Shaw's one-act Irish play, O'Flaherty v.C., and connect it with a couple of other fellow Irish playwrights, namely one named Lady Gregory and the other one named Lord Dunsany. Lady Gregory was one of the founders of the Abbey Theatre, and the play that we're going to do of hers was in, I believe, the opening bill of the Abbey Theatre. It's called Spreading the News. The Lord Dunsany piece, he wrote a lot of one acts. This particular one, even though he's Irish, is set in London, but it's such a delicious little piece. It just fits into the pattern of this afternoon. And we're going to start with the Shaw, O'Flaherty v.C. This is, he called it a recruiting play, which I think is kind of an overstatement in a certain way. But anyway, takes place in Ireland, at the door of an Irish county house in a park. Fine summer weather, the summer of 1915, so it's early in the war. The porch is painted white, projects into the drive, but the door is at the side and the front has a window. The porch faces east and the door is in the north side of it. On the south side is a tree in which a thrush is singing. Under the window is a garden seat with an iron chair at each end of it. The last four bars of God Save the King are heard in the distance, followed by three cheers. Then the band strikes up It's a Long Way to Tipperary and recedes until it is out of hearing. Private O'Flaherty, V.C., Victoria Cross, comes wearily southward along the drive and falls exhausted into the garden seat. The thrush utters a note of alarm and flies away. The tramp of a horse is heard. Tim! Hi, Tim!
Yes, Your Honour.
Take this horse to the stables, will you?
Right, Your Honour. You up there? Go on there, go on.
No, O'Flaherty. None of that now. You're off duty. Remember that though I am a general of 40 years' service, that little cross of yours gives you a higher rank in the roll of glory than I can pretend to.
I'm thankful for you, Sir Pierce. But I wouldn't have anyone think that a baronet of my native place would let a common soldier like me sit down in his presence without leave.
Well, you're not a common soldier, O'Flaherty. You're a very uncommon one, and I'm proud to have you for my guest here today.
Oh, sure, I know, sir. You have to put up with a lad to the like of me for the sake of the recruiting. All the quality shakes hands with me and says they're proud to know me, just the way the king said when he pinned the cross on me. And it's as true as I'm standing here, sir. The Queen said to me, I hear you were born in the estate of General Madigan. She says, the general himself tells me you are always a fine young fellow. But dad, ma'am, I says to her, if the general knew all the rabbits I snared on him and all the salmon I snatched on him and all the cows I milked on him, he'd think me the finest ornament in the county jail he ever sent for poaching.
You're welcome to them all, my lad. Now, come and sit down and enjoy your holiday.
Oh, holiday, is it? I give 5 shillings to be back in the trenches for the sake of a little rest and quiet. I never knew what hard work was till I took in recruiting. What with the standing on my legs all day and the shaking hands and the making speeches and what's worse, the listening to them and the calling the cheers for God and King and country and saluting the flag till I'm stiff with it and the listening to them playing God Save the King and Tipperary and the trying to make my eyes look moist like a man in a picture book that I bet I hardly get a wink's sleep. I give my word, Sir Pierce, that I never heard the tune of Tipperary in all my life till I come back from Flanders. And already it's drove me to the pitch of tiredness, the tiredness of it, that when I'm a poor little innocent slip of a boy in the street the other night drew himself up and saluted and began whistling at me, I clouted his head for him, God forgive me.
Yes, I know. I know. One does get fed up with it. I've been dog-tired myself on parade many a time. But still, there's a gratifying side to it too. After all, he is our king, and it's our own country, isn't it?
Yeah, well, sir, to you that have an estate in it, I would feel like your country. But the devil a perch of it I ever owned. And as to the king, God help him, my mother would never have taken the skin off my back if I ever let on to have any other king than Parnell.
Your mother? What are you dreaming about, O'Flaherty? A most loyal woman, always most loyal. Whenever there is an illness of the royal family, she asks me every time we meet about the health of the patient as anxiously as if it were yourself, her only son.
Oh, well, she's my mother, and I won't utter a word against her. But I'm not saying a word of a lie when I tell you that the woman is the biggest cannet from here to the cross of Munster, boys. Sure, she's the wildest Fenian rebel, and always has been, that ever taught a poor innocent lad like myself to pray night and morning to St. Patrick to clear the English out of Ireland, the same as he cleared the snakes. Now, you'll be surprised at my telling you that now, sir, maybe, Sir Piers?
Surprised? I'm more than surprised, O'Flaherty. I'm overwhelmed. Are you joking?
If you'd been brought up by my mother, sir, you know better than to joke about her. What I'm telling you is the truth, and I wouldn't tell it to you if I could see my way out to get out of the fix I'll be in when my mother comes here this day to see her boy in all his glory, and she, after thinking all the time that it was against the English I was fighting.
Do you mean to say you told her such a monstrous falsehood as that you were fighting in the German army?
I never told her one word that wasn't the truth and nothing but the truth. I told her that I was going to fight for the French and for the Russians. And sure, who has ever heard the French or the Russians do anything to the English but fighting them? That was how it was, sir. And sure, the poor woman kissed me and went about the house singing in her cracky voice, a voice that, the French is on the sea and will be without delay, and the orange will decay, says the Shan van Vocht.
Well, I never could have believed this. Never. What do you suppose will happen when she finds out?
Well, she mustn't find out. Oh, it's not that she'd half kill me as big as I am and as brave as I am. It's that I'm fond of her and I can't bring myself to break the heart in her. You may think it queer that a man should be fond of his mother, sir, and she having bet him from the time he could feel to the time she was too slow to catch him. But I'm fond of her, and I'm not ashamed of it. Besides, didn't she win the cross for me?
Your mother? How?
Well, by bringing me up to be more afraid of running away than for fighting. I was timid by nature, and when the other boys hurted me, I wanted to run away and cry. And she wailed on me for disgrace in the blood of the O'Flahertys till I'd have fought the devil himself sooner than face her after funking a fight. That was how I got to know that if fighting was easier than it looked, and that the others was as much afeard of me as I was of them, and that if I only held out long enough, they'd lose heart and give rip. That's the way it was, and how I became so courageous. I tell you, Sir Piers, if the German army had been brought up by my mother, the Kaiser would be dining in the banqueting hall of Buckingham Palace this day, and King George polishing his jack boots for him in the scullery.
But I don't like this, O'Flaherty. You can't go on deceiving your mother, It's not right.
Can't go on deceiving her, can't I? Well, it's little you know what a son's love can do, sir. Did you ever notice what a ready liar I am?
Well, in recruiting a man, it gets carried away. I stretch it a bit occasionally myself. After all, it's for king and country. But if you won't mind my saying it, O'Flaherty, I think that story about your fighting the Kaiser and the 12 giants of the Prussian Guard single-handed would be the better for a little toning down. I don't ask you to drop it, It's popular, undoubtedly, but still, the truth is the truth. Don't you think it would fetch in almost as many recruits if you reduced the number of guardsmen to 6?
You're not used to telling lies like I am, sir. I got great practice at home with my mother. What with saving my skin when I was young and thoughtless, and sparing her feelings when I was old enough to understand them, I hardly told my mother the truth twice in a year since I was born. And would you have me turn around on her and tell it now, when she's looking to have some peace and quiet in her old age?
Well, it's not my affair, of course, O'Flaherty, but hadn't you better talk to Father Quinlan about it?
Oh, talk to Father Quinlan, is it? Do you know what Father Quinlan says to me this very morning?
Oh, you've seen him already, have you? What did he say?
He says, you know, don't you, he says, that it's your duty as a Christian and a good son of the Holy Church to love your enemies, he says. I know it's my duty as a soldier to kill him, I says. Well, that's right, Dinny, he says, quite right. But he says, you can kill them and do them a good turn afterwards to show them your love for them, he says. And it's your duty to have the mass said for the souls of the hundreds of Germans that was killed, he says, for many and many of them were Bavarians and good Catholics, he says. Is it me that must pay for the masses of the souls of the Bushes, I says. Let the King of England pay for him, he says, for it was his quarrel, not mine.
It's the quarrel of every honest man and true patriot, O'Flaherty. Your mother must see that as clearly as I do. After all, she is a reasonable, well-disposed woman, quite capable of understanding the right and the wrong of the war. Why can't you explain it to her what the war is about?
Sir, how the devil do I know what this war is about?
What? O'Flaherty, do you know what you are saying? You sit there wearing the Victoria Cross for having killed God knows how many Germans, and you tell me you don't know why you did it.
Asking your pardon, Sir Pierce, I tell you, no such thing. I know quite why I killed them, because I was afeard if I didn't, they'd kill me.
Oh, yes, of course. But have you no knowledge of the causes of the war, of the interests at stake, of the importance, I may almost say, in fact, I will say, the sacred right for which we are fighting? Don't you read the papers?
I do when I can get them. There's not many newsboys crying the evening paper in the trenches. They do say, Sir Pierce, that we shall have never beat the Boches until we make Horatio Bottomley Lord Lieutenant of England. Do you think that's true, sir?
Rubbish, man. There's no Lord Lieutenant in England. The King is Lord Lieutenant. It's a simple question of patriotism. Does patriotism mean nothing to you?
It means a different thing to me than it would to you, sir. It means England and England's king to you. To me and the like of me, it means talking about the English just the way the English papers talk about the Boches. And what good has it ever done in here in Ireland? It's kept me ignorant because it filled my mother's mind, and she thought it ought to fill up mine too. It's kept Ireland poor because instead of trying to better ourselves, we thought we was fine fellows of patriots when we were speaking evil of the Englishman that was poor as ourselves and maybe as good as ourselves. The Boches I killed was more knowledgeable men than me. And what better am I now that I killed them? What better is anybody?
I'm sorry, the terrible experience of this war, the greatest war ever fought, has taught you no better, O'Flaherty.
I don't know about it being a great war, sir. It's a big war, but that's not the same thing. Father Quinlan's new church is a big church. You might take a little old chapel in the middle of, you might take a little old chapel out in the middle of it and not miss it. But my mother says there was more true religion in the old chapel. The war has taught me that. Maybe she was right. And there's another thing it's taught me too, sir. It concerns you and me, if I may make bold to tell it to you.
I hope it's nothing you oughtn't to say to me, O'Flaherty.
Is this, sir, that I'm able to sit here now and talk to you without humbugging you. And that's what none of your tenants or your tenants' children ever did to you before in all your life. It's a true respect I'm showing to you at last, sir. Maybe you'd rather have me humbug you and tell you the lies I used to, just as the boys do here, God help them, would rather have me tell them how I fought the Kaiser, that all the world knows I never saw in my life, than tell them the truth. But I can't take advantage of you this way I used to, not even if I seem to be wanting respect to you and cocked up by winning the cross.
Not at all, O'Flaherty, not at all.
Sure, what's the cross to me, barring a little pension it carries? Do you think I don't know that there's hundreds of men as brave as me that never had the luck to get anything for their bravery, but a curse from the sergeant and the blame for the faults of them that ought to have been their betters? I learned more than you think, sir. For how would a gentleman like you know what a poor, ignorant, conceited creature I was when I went from here into the wide world as a soldier? What use is all the lying and pretending and humbugging and letting on when the day comes to you that your comrade is killed in the trench beside you, and you don't as much as a look around at him until you trip over his poor body, and then all you say is to ask why the hell the stretch bearers don't take it out of the way? Why should I read the papers to get humbug and lied to by them that had the cunning to stay at home and send me to fight for him? Don't talk to me or any other soldier about the war being right. No war is right. And all the holy water that Father Quinlan ever blessed couldn't make one right. There, sir. Now you know what O'Flaherty VC thinks. You're wiser so than the others that only knows what he's done.
Well, what you did was brave and manly, anyhow.
God knows whether it was or not. Better than me, Sir General. I hope he won't be too hard on me for it, anyhow.
Oh, yes. We all have to think seriously sometimes, especially when we're a little run down. I'm afraid we've been overworking you a bit over these recruiting meetings. However, we can knock off for the rest of the day, and tomorrow's Sunday. I've had about as much as I can stand myself. It's tea time. I wonder what's keeping your mother.
Oh, it's nicely cocked up. The old woman will be having tea at the same table as you, sir, instead of in the kitchen. Oh, she'll be after the dressing in the height of grandeur. And stop will she at every house in the neighbourhood to show herself off and tell him where she's going and fill the whole parish with spite and envy. But sure, she shouldn't keep you waiting, sir.
Oh, that's all right. She must be indulged on an occasion like this. I'm sorry my wife is in London. She'd have been glad to welcome your mother.
Oh, sure, I know she would, sir. Oh, she's always a kind friend to the poor. Oh, little her ladyship knew, God help her, the depth of devilment that was in us. We were like a play to her. You see, she was English. That's how it was. We was to her as the Pathans, the Senegalese was to me when I first seen them. I couldn't think somehow that they were liars and thieves and backbiters and drunkards, just like ourselves and any other Christians. Oh, her ladyship never knew all that was going on behind her back. How could she? When I was a weeshy child, she gave me the first penny I ever had in my hand. And I wanted to pray for her conversion that night, the same as my mother made me pray for yours. And
You mean to say that your mother made you pray for my conversion?
well, sure, she wouldn't want to see a gentleman like you going to hell after she nursing your own son and bringing up my sister Annie on the bottle. Well, that was how it was, sir. She'd rob you and she'd lie to you and she'd call down all the blessings of God on your head when she was selling your own geese that you thought was ate by the fox the day after you finished fattening them, sir. And all the time you were like a bit of her own flesh and blood to her. Often she said as she'd live to see you a good Catholic yet, leading victorious armies against the English and wearing the collar of gold that Malachi won from the proud invader. Oh, she's a romantic woman, is my mother, make no mistake.
I really can't believe this, O'Flaherty. I could have sworn your mother was as honest a woman as ever breathed.
And so she is, sir. She's honest as the day.
Do you call it honest to steal my geese?
Oh, she didn't steal them, sir. It was I that stole them.
Oh, and why the devil did you steal them?
Well, sure, we needed them, sir. Often and often we had to sell our own geese to pay the rent to satisfy your needs. Why shouldn't we sell your geese to satisfy ours?
Well, damn me.
Sure, you had to get what you could from us, and we had to get what we could from you. God forgive us both.
Really, O'Flaherty, the war seems to have upset you a little.
Set me thinking, sir, and I'm not used to it. It's like the patriotism of the English. They never taught about being patriotic until the war broke out. And now the patriotism has took them so sudden and come so strange from them that they run about like frightened chickens, uttering all manner of nonsense. But please God, they'll forget all about it when the war's over. They're getting tired of it already.
No, it has uplifted us all in a wonderful way. The world would never be the same again, O'Flaherty. Not after a war like this.
So they say, sir. I see no great differ myself. It's all the fright and the excitement, and when it quiets down, they'll go back to their natural development and be the same as ever. It's like the vermin. It'll all wash off after a while.
Well, the long and the short of it is, O'Flaherty, I must decline to be a party to any attempt to deceive your mother. I thoroughly disapprove of this feeling against the English, especially at a moment like the present. Even if your mother's political sympathies are really what you represent them to be, I should think that her gratitude to Gladstone ought to cure her of such disloyal prejudices.
Well, she says Gladstone was an Irishman, sir. What could he have had to meddle with Ireland if he wasn't?
What nonsense. Does she suppose Mr. Asquith is an Irishman?
She won't give him any credit for home rule, sir. She says Redmond made him do it. She said you told her so.
Well, I never meant her to take it up in that ridiculous way. Yeah, I'll give her a good talking to when she comes. I'm not going to stand any of her nonsense.
It's not a bit of use, sir. She says all English generals is Irish. She says all English poets and great men is Irish. She says the English never knew how to read their own books till we taught them. She says we're the lost tribes, the house of Israel, and the chosen people of God. She says the god Venus was born out of the foam of the sea and came up out of the water at Kilney Bay off Braehead. She says that Moses built the 7 churches and that Lazarus was buried in Glasnevin.
Bosh! How does she know he was? Did you ever ask her?
Oh, I did, sir, often.
What did she say?
She asked me how I knew he wasn't and fetched me a clout on the side of the head.
But have you never mentioned any famous Englishmen to her and asked her what she had to say about them?
Well, the only one I couldn't think of was Shakespeare, sir, and she says he was born in Cork.
Well, I give it up. The woman is, oh, well, never matter.
Yes, sir. She's pig-headed and obstinate. There's no doubt about that. She's like the English. They think there's no one like themselves. It's the same with the Germans, though they're educated not to know better. You'll never have a quiet world till you knock the patriotism out of the human race.
Still, we...
Wish, sir, for God's sake, here she is. Good evening, Mother.
Hold your wished, and learn behaviour while I pay my duty to his honour. And how is your honour's good self? And how is her ladyship? And all the young ladies? Oh, it's right glad we are to see your honour back again and look in the picture of health.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Flaherty. Well, you see, we've brought your son back safe and sound. I hope you're proud of him.
And indeed I am, your honour. It's the brave boy he is. And why wouldn't he be? Brought up on your honour's estate and with you before his eyes for a pattern of the finest soldier in Ireland. Come and kiss your old mother, Dinny darling. Oh, that's my darling boy. And look at your fine new uniform, stained already with the eggs you've been eating and the porter you've been drinking. Oh, it's the untidiest slovenly one you always wear. Now there, it won't be seen on the khaki. It's not like the old red coat that would show up everything that dribbled down on it. And they tell me down at the lodge that her ladyship is staying in London and that Miss Agnes is to be married to a fine young nobleman. Oh, it's your honour that is the lucky and happy father. Oh, it'll be bad news for many of the young gentlemen of quality round here, sir. There's lots thought she was going to marry young Master Lawless.
What? That bastard?
Oh, let your honour alone for finding the right word. A big bastard he is, your honour. And to think of the times and times I have said that Miss Agnes would be my lady as her mother was before her. Now, didn't I, Dinny?
And now, Mrs. O'Flaherty, I dare say you have a great deal to say to Dennis that doesn't concern me. I'll just go in and order tea.
Oh, why would your honour disturb yourself? Sure, I can take the boy into the yard.
Not at all. It won't disturb me in the least. and he's too big a boy to be taken into the yard now. He has made a front seat for himself, eh?
Oh, sure he has that, Your Honor. Oh, God bless Your Honor. Oh. And what do you mean, you lying young scald, by telling me you are going to fight again the English? Did you take me for a fool that couldn't find out? And the papers full of you shaking hands with the English king at Buckingham Palace?
No, I didn't shake hands with him. He shook hands with me. But could I turn on the man in his own house before his wife with his money in my pocket and yours and throw his civility back in his face?
You would take the hand of a tyrant red with the blood of Ireland?
Ah, hold your nonsense, mother. He's not half the tyrant you are, God help him. Oh, his hand be cleaner than mine that had the blood of his relations on it, maybe.
Was that the way you speak to your mother, you young spalpeen?
It is so, if you wouldn't talk nonsense with me. It is a nice thing for a poor boy to be made much of by kings and queens and shook hands with by the height of his country's nobility in the capital cities of the world, and then to come home and be scolded and insulted by his own mother. I'll fight for who I like, and I'll shake hands with the kings I like, and if your own son is not good enough for you, you can go and look for another. Do you mind me now?
And was it the Belgians learned you such brazen impudence?
Oh, the Belgians is good, man, and the French ought to be more civil to them, let alone they're being half murdered by the Boches.
Good men, is it? Good men. To come over here when they were wounded because it was a Catholic country, and then to go to the Protestant church because it didn't cost them anything, and some of them to never go near a church at all. That's what you call good men?
Oh, you're a mighty fine politician, aren't you? Much you know about the Belgians or foreign parts of the world you're living in, God help you.
But why wouldn't I know better than you? Amn't I your mother?
And if you are itself, how can you know what you never seen as well as me that was dug into the continent of Europe for 6 months and was buried in the earth of it for near 3 times with the shells bursting on top of me? I tell you, I know what I'm about. I have my own reasons for taking part in this great conflict. I'd be ashamed to stay at home and not fight when everybody else is fighting.
But if you wanted to fight, why couldn't you fight in the German army?
Because they only get a penny a day.
Oh, well, and if they do itself, isn't there the French army?
Well, they only get halfpenny a day.
Oh, murder. They must be a mean lot, Dinny.
Maybe you'd have me in the Turkish army and worship the heathen Muhammad that would corn his own ear and pretended it was a message from the heavens when the pigeons came to pick it out and eat it. I went to where I could get the biggest allowance for you. Little thanks I get for it.
Allowance, is it? Do you know what the thieving blackguards did on me? They came to me and they says, was your son a big eater, they says. Oh, he was that, says I. 10 shillings a week wouldn't keep him. Sure, I thought the more I said, the more they'd give me. Then, says they, that's 10 shillings a week off your allowance, they says, because you save that by the king feeding him. Indeed, says I. I suppose if I'd 6 sons, you'd stop £3 a week from me and make out that I ought to pay you money instead of you paying me. That's the fallacy in your argument, they says.
What?
A fallacy. That's the word he said. I says to him, it's a Pharisee, I'm thinking you mean, sir. But you can keep your dirty money that your king grudges a poor old widow. And please God, the English will be got yet for the deadly sin of oppressing the poor. And with that, I shut the door in his face.
Do you tell me they knocked off 10 shillings from my keep?
No, darling. They only knocked off £0.50. I put up with it because I got the old age pension. And they know very well I'm only 62, so I've the better of them by £0.50 a week anyhow.
It's a queer way of doing business. If they tell you straight out what they were going to give you, no, you wouldn't mind. But if there was 20 ways of telling the truth and only one way of telling a lie, the government would find it out. It's in the nature of the government to tell lies.
You're to come up to the drawing room to have your tea, Mrs. O'Flaherty.
Now mind you have a sup of good black tea for me in the kitchen afterwards, Acushla. That washy drawing room tea will give me wind if I leave it on my stomach.
Is that yourself, Tessie? How are you?
Nicely, thank you. And how's yourself?
Finally, thank God. Look what I brought you, Tessie.
Sorry, I don't like to touch it, Denny. Did you take it off a dead man?
Ah, no, I took it off a live one. And thankful he was to me to be alive and kept a prisoner in ease, at comfort, and me left fighting in peril of my life.
You think it's real gold, Denny?
A real German gold, anyhow.
But German silver isn't real, Denny.
Well, it's the best the Bosch could do for me, anyhow.
Do you think I might take it to the jeweler next market day and ask him?
You can take it to the devil if you like.
You needn't lose your temper about it. I only thought I'd like to know. The nice fool I'd look if I went about showing off a chain that turned out to be only brass.
I think you might say thank you.
Do you? I think you might have said something more to me than, is that yourself? You can say less to the postman.
Oh, is that what's the matter? Here, come and take a taste of their brass out of my mouth.
Thank God the priest can't see us here.
It's little care they have for priests in France, Alana.
And what had the queen on her, Denny, when she spoke to you in the palace?
Oh, she had a bonnet without any strings on it, and she had a plaquine of embroidery down her bosom, and she had her waist where it used to be instead of where the other ladies had it, and she had little brooches in her ears, and she hadn't half the jewelry that Mrs. Sullivan that keeps the post shop down in Drumpogue. She dresses her hair down on her forehead in a fringe like, and she has an Irish look about her eyebrows. And she didn't know what to say to me, poor woman, and I didn't know what to say to her, God help me.
Sorry. You'll have a pension now at the cross, won't you, Denny?
6 pence 3 farthings a day.
That isn't much.
I'll take out the rest in glory.
And if you're wounded, you'll have a wound pension, won't you?
I will, please God.
You're going out again, aren't you, Denny?
I can't help myself. I'll be shot for deserter if I didn't go, and maybe I'll be shot by the Boches if I do go. So between the two, I'm nicely fixed up.
Tessie, darling.
I'm wanted for the tea table. You'll have a pension anyhow, Denny, won't you, whether you're wounded or not?
Come, child, come.
Oh, sure, I'm coming.
And if I do get a pension itself, it's the devil a penny that you'll ever have to spend enough.
Oh, it's a shame for you to keep the girl from her duties, Dinny. You might get her into trouble.
Much care I whether she gets into trouble or not. I pity the man who gets into trouble. He'll get himself into trouble worse.
What's that you tell me? Have you been falling out with her? And she a girl with a fortune of £10?
Oh, let her keep her fortune. I wouldn't touch her with tongues if she had thousands and millions.
Fie for shame, Dinny. Why would you say the like of that of a decent, honest girl, and one of the Driscolls too?
Oh, why wouldn't I say it? She's thinking of nothing but to get me out there again and be wounded so she can have spend my pension. Bad scran to her.
Why, what's come over you, child, at all?
But knowledge and wisdom has come over me with pain and fear and trouble. I've been made a fool of here and imposed upon all my life. And I thought that covetous Sreel in there was a walking angel. And now if I ever marry her, I'll marry a French woman.
You'll not so. And don't you dare repeat such a thing to me.
Oh, won't I, Faith? I've been as good as married to a couple of them already.
Oh, the Lord be praised. Oh, what wickedness have you been up to, you young blackguard?
Oh, one of them French women would cook you a meal twice a day and all the days of the year that Sir Piers himself would go begging through Ireland for and never get the like of. Well, I'll have a French wife, I tell you. And I'll settle down and be a farmer. I'll have a French farm and a big field as big as the continent of Europe that 10 of your dirty little fields here wouldn't so much as fill a ditch of.
Then it's a French mither you may go look for I'm done with you.
No, it's no great loss you'd be if it wasn't for my natural feelings for you. And it's only a silly, ignorant old countrywoman you are with all your fine talk about Ireland. And you never stepped beyond the few acres of it you were born on.
God, Dinny, darling. Oh, why are you like this to me? What's happened to you?
What's happened to everybody? That's what I want to know. What's happened to you that I thought all the world of and was afeard of? What's happened to Sir Pierce that I thought was a great general and now I see is no more fit to command an army than an old hen? And what's happened to Tessie that I was mad to marry a year ago that I wouldn't take now with all of Ireland for her fortune? I tell you, the world's creation is crumbling in ruins about me. And you come and ask me what's happened to me?
Oh, God, my son's turned again me. Oh, what'll I do with it all? Oh.
What's this infernal noise? What on earth is the matter?
Ara, which your mother? Don't you see his honour?
Oh, sir, I'm ruined and destroyed. Oh, won't you speak to Dinny, sir? I'm heart scalded with him. He wants to marry a French woman on me and to go away and be a foreigner and desert his mother and betray his country. It's mad he is with the roaring of the cannons and the killing the Germans and the Germans killing him. Bad cess to them. My boy is taken from me and turned again me. And who's to take care of me and me all that after all I've done for him? Oh, no.
Oh, hold your noise, I tell you. Who's going to leave you? I'm going to take you with me. There now, does that satisfy you?
Does he take me into a strange land among heathens and pagans and savages, and me not knowing a word of their language, nor them of mine?
Oh, good job they don't. Maybe they'll think you're talking sense.
Ask me to die out of Ireland, is it? And the angels not to find me when they come for me?
Would you ask me to live in Ireland, where I've been imposed upon and kept in ignorance, and to die where the devil himself wouldn't take me as a gift, let alone the blessed angels? You can come or stay. You can take your old way or take my young way. But stick in this place I will not, among a lot of good-for-nothing devils that'll not do a hand's turn but watch the grass growing and build up a stone wall where the cow walked through it. And Sir Horace Plunkett breaking his heart all the time, telling them how they might put the land into a decent tillage like the French and the Belgians.
Yes, he's quite right, you know, Mrs. O'Flaherty. Quite right there.
Well, sir, please God, the war will last a long time yet. And maybe I'll die before it's over and the separation allowance stops.
Oh, that's all you care about. Oh, it's nothing but milch cows we men are for you women, with the separation allowances ever since the war began. Bad luck to them that made it.
Hannah sent me out to tell you, sir, that the tea will be black and the cake not fit to eat with the cold if yous all don't come in at once.
Oh, Tessie, darling, what have you been saying to Dinny at all? Oh.
You can't discuss that out here. We shall have Tessie beginning now.
That's right, sir. Drive them in.
I haven't said a word to him.
Hold your tongue and go in and attend to your business at the tea table.
But, I'm telling you, Your Honor, that I never said a word to him. He gave me a beautiful gold chain. Here it is to show Your Honor that it's no lie. I'm telling you.
What's this, O'Flaherty? You've been looting some unfortunate officer?
No, sir. I stole it from him on his own accord.
And wouldn't Your Honor tell him that his mother has the first call on it? What would a slip of a girl like that be doing with a gold chain around her neck?
Anyhow, I have a neck to put around, not an ache of wrinkles.
You impudent young heifer. How dare you say such a thing to me?
Silence.
Here now. None of that.
You hear me?
None of that. Easy, I tell you.
So Flaherty.
Don't you wish brother with you?
Flaherty.
Will you be sorry you're talking after? That's a nice way for a decent young
But
girl.
hear me.
Oh, for the Lord's sake, shut up, will you? You have no respect for yourselves and your betters.
That noise.
Let me have no more of it, I tell you. Oh, the devil's in the whole crew, you. Carry your house out of the kitchen if
Calling you
you
in
like.
your right mind. Telling you
Look at
would never lower themselves to be seen in conversation with you at the fair.
What a discontented sort of animal a man is, sir. Only a month ago, I was in the quiet of the country, out in the front, with not a sound but the birds and the bell of a cow in the distance as it might be, and the shrapnel making little clouds in the heavens, with shells whistling, and maybe a yell or two when one of them was hit. And would you believe it, sir? I complained to the noise and wanted to have a peaceful hour at home. Well, the two of them has taught me a lesson. This morning, sir, I was telling the boys here that I was longing to go back to take my part for king and country and the others. And, well, I was lying, as well you know, sir. And now I can go on and say with a clear conscience, some likes war's alarms and some likes home life. I've tried both, sir, and I'm for war alarms now. I always was a quiet lad by natural disposition.
Strictly between ourselves, O'Flaherty, and as one soldier to another, do you think we should have got an army without conscription if domestic life had been as happy as people say it is?
Well, between you and me and the wall, Sir Pierce, I think the less we say about until the war's over, the better.
And Kurt. Okay, let's take, let's see what time is it. Let's take a break till 10 of 2.
Great job, guys. Thank you so much. It's a lot of fun. I wasn't familiar with that, and yes, there is definitely a lot of that does have a lot of contemporary relevance with another war here again. So I just want to sort of, since we're here with these with the live streams, I'm just sort of here if anybody's got any questions, or I'll sort of update people on what the our upcoming schedule is, if I can find my thing on that. But it's really great to have you all here together for this. And we had a really nice time in France yesterday with the School for Wives, and now here we are in Ireland. And so, hey, Ben, good to see you.
Hey, anybody heard the latest? Oh, you guys have all been online. Why would you have? Never mind. Ukraine, I'm talking about.
No. What's happened? Have they still?
No. I haven't. I haven't heard anything. Yeah, no, I haven't heard anything since before 9 o'clock this morning. I've been in session since then. So, if anybody's heard anything since then, please let me know.
Yeah. Well, it's just.
It is. Hearing stories, about little father teaching his 10-year-old daughter to duck and cover when the siren goes off. 10 years old.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to have to live like that when you're 10.
I mean, it's just.
It is.
Yeah, it's so awful and so terrible that somebody. I mean, that this can still happen, and that. But in Europe, and that there's just such divisions everywhere. But that we can't. I mean, that also one of the things that everybody's talking about. Oh well, at least because they're not part of NATO, we don't have to do anything. But if Russia goes any further and does it to any NATO countries, then we're going to go. But I mean, why is the UN, I know the UN is powerless because Russia's got a veto. So you can't do anything to Russia. And you've got Russia and China are happy to stand together. I mean, the Tsar and the Emperor, I mean, it's disgusting that these huge, powerful countries are just controlled by these autocrats, and for China, it's just such. Even, with a lot of this stuff that I mean, all of the sorts of horrible cultural revolution and things that they did at least sort of stick to the ideology, and now they've sort of sold out. And it's like with all of them, it's all about selling out to capitalism. And then you have the new elite, where it used to be like the Communist Party of the super rich, you know, and that's what we're living in now, is not is just effectively the government by the biggest richest.
Driving around yesterday, I was hearing, while I drove, I was listening to it. Germany has sent 1,000 anti-tank the weapons and a bunch of other things. I forget what. Also, Norway, some Netherlands is involved in this. It's like, where are we?
And Spain said, well, we've already sent them a great deal.
Did they?
Before this started. When Putin was building up his troops around Ukraine, we sent them a whole bunch of stuff.
Wait, Spain sent them?
We did. The US did.
We did. Okay, I didn't
Spain
know
has
that.
since sent them some stuff.
Oh, I didn't know I don't remember that. Okay.
Yeah, we did.
I've been
We sent
feeling
them a
like,
lot
where
of
are
stuff.
we? Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy, it's just no story. They're denazifying. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's totally, I mean, like George Orwell is, I mean, really where they just sort of telling lies. And I mean,
Yep.
and that's something that even in this country with Trump, we still have that people just can get away with just sort of telling lies.
I'm glad to hear we did something. I don't like hand wringing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
People, I know people there. I know sort of a Polish friend whose family lives right near the border of Ukraine, I have selfish interests, but it's just horrible to hear what their lives are becoming. That's not, because the guy wants a little more property. Fuck you.
Well, and now, so what David had David had referred to earlier, that Putin has ordered Russian nuclear forces onto high alert in response to what he called aggressive statements by NATO powers. So that's this nuclear saber rattling is very. But I mean, we've got to find a way to sort of effectively stand up against them, because I mean, basically all of these autocrats, they're bullies. And the only way you can, if you give a bully what they want, it's that they're going to keep bullying because it got them what they want.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to stand up to them
because we're cutting off their money. And there are Russians who are protesting against this, which is pretty amazing. But there's the other oligarchs to bear in mind, because if they get hurt monetarily, they may well decide that they don't want Putin running things anymore. So there's a lot of moving pieces here.
Yes. And I wish I had a sense that somebody in our country was really who has power, was really thinking about all those moving pieces that we laymen may know a little bit about, but only a little.
I think so far we have done a pretty good job of playing this game. I really like Tony Blinken. I think Blinken's doing a good job. I think Biden's doing a good job. I think it would be radically different if this had happened when Trump was president, for example.
I'm not impressed with our country. I hope you're right.
Well, I think that in terms, if you think about, because Russia does not have the population or really the GDP to keep this up for a length of time if we stand fast.
Yeah, I mean, keep repeating the mistakes of the past, like they did in Afghanistan, like we did in Afghanistan,
Yeah.
It's like the long war. Anyways, well, it's 1:50, so these are very great topics for further discussion, but now, fortunately, we can leave that to go back to another Irish.
Let's go back to a simpler time.
Yes.
Lady Gregory, was an authoress, or whatever you want to say, who specialized in one-act plays about the people of Ireland, the more common people. And this particular play, Spreading the News, is set on the outskirts of an Irish fair. There's an apple stall with Mrs. Tarpey sitting at it, and various other characters around ready to sell their wares. The people who start this play are a removable magistrate and an Irish policeman. Removable magistrate was a magistrate that was put in place by the British. And so he's an Englishman who's over in Ireland being a local magistrate. They have them in the various districts. So here we go. So that is the fair green, cattle and sheep and mud, no system. What a repulsive sight.
That is so indeed.
I suppose there's a good deal of disorder in this place.
There is.
Common assault.
It's common enough.
Agrarian crime, no doubt.
That is so.
Boycotting, maiming of cattle, firing into houses.
Oh, there was at one time. There might be again.
That is bad. Does it go any farther than that?
Far enough indeed.
Homicide, then. This district has been shamefully neglected. I will change all that. When I was in the Andaman Islands, my system never failed. Yes, I will change all that. What has that woman on her stall?
Yeah, apples mostly, and sweets.
Just see if there are any unlicensed goods underneath, spirits or the like. We had invasions of the salt tax in the Andaman Islands.
I see no spirits here, or salt.
Do you know this town well, my good woman?
A penny the half dozen, Your Honour.
The gentleman is asking, do you know the town? He's the new magistrate.
Oh, do I know the town? Oh, I do, to be sure.
What is its chief business?
Business, is it? What business would the people here have but to be minding one another's business?
I mean, what trades have they?
Oh, not a trade. No trade at all, but to be talking.
I shall learn nothing here. Oh, the smoke from that man's pipe had a greenish look. He may be growing unlicensed tobacco at home. I wish I had brought my telescope to this district. Come to the post office. I will telegraph for it. I found it very useful in the Andaman Islands.
Bad luck to Joel Muldoon, looking my apples this way and that way. Showing off he was to the new magistrate.
Indeed, it is a poor country and a scarce country to be living in. But I'm thinking if I went to America, it's long ago the day I'd be dead.
So you might indeed.
And it's a great expense for a poor man to be buried in America.
Never fear, Bartley Fallon, but I'll give you a good burying the day you'll die.
Maybe it's yourself will be buried in the grave of Lord Mora before me, Mary Fallon. And I myself that will be dying unbeknownst some night. And no one near me. And the cat itself may be going straying through the country. And the mice squealing over the quilt.
Leave off your talking of dying. It might be 20 years you'll be living yet.
I'm thinking if I'll be living at the end of 20 years, it's a very old man I'll be then.
Oh, good morrow, Bartley Fallon. Good morrow, Mrs. Fallon. Well, Bartley, you'll find no cause for complaining today. They say they are saying it was a good fair.
It was not a good fair, Mrs. Tarpey. It was a scattered sort of affair. If we didn't expect more, we got less. That's the way with me always. Whatever I have to sell goes down, and whatever I have to buy goes up. If there's ever any misfortune coming to this world, it's on myself it pitches, like a flock of crows on seed potatoes.
Leave off talking of misfortunes. Listen to Jack Smith that is coming the way, and he's singing.
That man had a wife, he did. He was stuck with her for life, he was. I love to go swimming with bow-legged women and swim between their legs. Swim between their legs. So I don't want to have a wife. I don't want to have a wife. That's not my line. Someone else should be talking.
I thought, my first love, there would be one house between you and me, and I thought I would find yourself coaxing my children on your over the tide. I would leap with the leap of a swan till I come to the side of a wife of the red-haired man.
That should be a good song if I had my hearing.
It's the red-haired man's wife.
Oh, I know it well. That's the song that has a skid on it.
Where's herself, Jack Smith?
She was delayed with her washing, bleaching the clothes on the head she is, and she daren't leave them with all the tinkers that do be passing to the fair. It isn't to the fair that I came myself, but up to the 5-acre meadow where I'm going, where I have a contract for the hay. We'll get a share of it into tramps today.
You will not get it into tramps today. The rain will be down, it'll be evening. And on myself too. It's seldom I ever started on a journey, but the rain will come down on me before I find any place of shelter.
If it didn't itself, Bartley, it's my belief you'd carry a leaky pail on your head in place of a hat, and that way you'd not be without some cause of complaining.
Go on now, go on out of that. Go on, I say.
Look at that young mare of Pat Ryan's that's backing into Shaughnessy's bollocks with a dint of a crowd. Don't be daunted, Pat. I'll give you a hand with her.
Oh, it's time for ourselves to be going home. I have all I bought put in the basket. Oh, look at there, Jack Smith's hay fork he left after him. He'll be wanting it. Jack Smith! Jack Smith! Oh, he's gone through the crowd. Hurry after him, Bartley. He'll be wanting it.
I'll do that. This is no safe place to be leaving it. Look at it now. If there is any basket in the fair upset, it must be our own basket.
Oh, get out of that. It is your own fault, it is. Talk of misfortunes, and misfortunes will come. Glory be. Look at my new egg cups rolling in every part, and my 2 pound of sugar with the paper broke.
God help us, Mrs. Fallon. What happened to your basket?
It's himself that knocked it down. Bad manners to him. My grand sugar that's destroyed, and he'll not drink his tea without it. I'd best go back to the shop for more. Much good may it do him.
Where is Bartley Fallon, Mrs. Fallon? I want a word with him before I leave the fair. I was afraid he might have gone home by this, for he's a temperate man.
I wish he did go home. It'd be the best for me if he went straight from the fair green, or if he never came with me at all. Oh, where is he, is it? He's gone up the road, following Jack Smith with the hay fork.
Following Jack Smith with a hay fork. Did anyone ever hear the like of that? Did you hear the news, Mrs. Tarpey?
I heard no news at all.
Some dispute, I suppose it was, that rose between Jack Smith and Bartley Fallon, and it seems Jack made off, and Bartley is following him with a hay fork.
Is he now? Well, that was quick work. It's not 10 minutes since the two of them were here. Bartley going home and Jack going to the 5-acre meadow. And I had my apples to settle up that Joe Muldoon of the police had scattered. And when I looked round again, Jack Smith was gone and Bartley Fallon was gone. And Mrs. Fallon's basket upset and all in it strewn all over the ground. The tea here, the 2 pound sugar there, the egg cups there. Oh, look now, what great hardship the deafness puts upon me, that I didn't see the commencement of the fight. Oh, wait till I tell Jack Ryan that I see below. He's a neighbour of Bartley's. It'd be a pity if he wouldn't hear the news.
Listen, Sean Early. Listen, Mrs. Tolley, to the news. Jack Smith and Bartley Fallon had a falling out, and Jack knocked Mrs. Fallon's basket into the road, and Bartley made an attack on him with the hay fork, and away with Jack and Bartley after him. Look at the sugar here yet on the road.
You tell me so. That's a queer thing. Bartley Fallon's so quiet along.
I wouldn't wonder at all. I would never think well of a man that would have that sort of a mouldering look. It's likely he has overtaken Jack by this.
That is great news, Mrs. Tarpey was telling me. I suppose that's what brought the police up and the magistrate up this way. I was wondering to see them in it a while ago.
Police after them. Bartley Fallon must have injured Jack, so they wouldn't meddle in a fight that was only for show.
And why wouldn't he injure him? There was many a man killed with no more of a weapon than a hayfork.
Oh, wait till I run north and as far as Kelly's Bar to spread the news.
I'll go tell Jack Smith's first cousin that is standing there south of the church after selling his lambs.
I'll go telling a few of the neighbours I see beyond to the west.
I'll give word of it beyond, at the east of the grain.
Stop a minute, Mrs. Early, and tell me, did you see Red Jack Smith's wife, Kitty Carey, any place?
I did. At her own house she was, drying clothes on the hedge as I passed.
What did you say she was doing?
Laying out a sheet on the hedge.
Laying out a sheet for the dead. Oh, the Lord have mercy on us, Jack Smith dead, and his wife laying out a sheet for his burying. Why didn't you tell me that before, Mrs. Early? Oh, isn't the deafness the great hardship? Half the world might be dead without me knowing of it or getting word of it. Oh, my poor Jack Smith, to be going to his work, so nice and so hearty, and to be left stretched on the ground in the full light of day.
What do you think, Mrs. Tarpey? What happened since?
Oh, my poor Jack Smith.
Did Bartley overtake him?
Oh, the poor man.
Is it killed? He is.
Wretched in the 5-acre meadow.
The Lord have mercy on us. Is that a fact?
Without the rites of the church or a ha'porth.
Who was telling you?
And the wife laying out a sheet for his corpse. I suppose they'll wake him the same as any other.
Oh, there is great talk about this work in every quarter of the fair.
Oh, gone, cold and dead. Oh, and myself, maybe the last he was speaking to.
Lord save us. Is it dead he is?
Dead, surely. And the wife getting provision for the wake?
Well now, hadn't Bartley found great venom in him?
Oh, you may be sure he had some cause. Why would he have made an end of him if he had not? What was it rose the dispute at all, Mrs. Tarpey?
Not a one of me knows. The last I saw them, Jack Smith was standing there and Bartley was standing there, quiet and easy, and he listening to the red-haired man's wife.
Oh, do you hear that, Tim Casey? Do you hear that, Sean Early and James Ryan? Bartley Fallon was here this morning listening to Red Jack Smith's wife, Kitty Carey that was, listening to her and whispering with her. It was she started the fight so.
He must have fallen from her own house. It's likely some person roused him.
I never knew before Bartley Fallon was great with Jack Smith's wife.
Well, how would you know it? Sure, it's not in the streets that would be calling it. If Mrs. Fallon didn't know of it, and if I, that have the next house to them, didn't know of it, and if Jack Smith himself didn't know of it, it is not likely you would know of it, Tim Casey.
Let Bartley Fallon take charge of her from this household. Let him provide for her. It's little pity she will get from any person in this place.
How can he take charge of her? Sure he has a wife of his own. Sure you don't think he'd turn super and marry her in a Protestant church?
It would be easy for him to marry her if he brought her to America.
With or without Kitty Carey, lately. It is for America he's making at this minute. Or the new magistrate, Joe Muldoon of the police, going into the post office as they came up. There was hurry on him. You may be sure it was to telegraph they went. The way he'll be stuck in the docks of Queenstown.
Oh, it's likely Kitty Carey has gone with him and not minding a sheet or a wake at all. The poor man, to be deserted by his own wife, and the breath hardly gone out yet from his body that is lying bloody on the field.
What is the whole of the town talking about? And what is it you yourselves are talking about? Is it my man, Bartley Fallon, you're talking about? Is it lies about him you're telling, saying that he went killing Jack Smith? My grief that ever he came into this place at all.
Oh, be easy now, Mrs. Fallon. Sure, there is no one at all in the whole fair but is sorry for you.
Sorry for me, is it? Why would anyone be sorry for me? Let you be sorry for yourselves that there may be shame on you forever and at the day of judgment for the words you are saying and the lies you are telling to take away the character of my poor man and to take the good name off of him and to drive him to destruction. That is what you are doing.
Be comfort now, Mrs. Fallon. The police are not so smart as they think. Sure, he might give them the same as Lindown.
If they do get him, and if they do put a rope around his neck, there's no one can say he does not deserve it.
Is that what you are saying, Bridget Tully? And is that what you think? I tell you, it's too much talk you have, making yourself out to be such a great one and to be running down every respectable person. A rope, is it? It isn't much of a rope you needed to tie up your own furniture the day you came into Martin Tully's house, and you never bring in as much as a blanket or a penny or a suit of clothes with you, and I myself bring in 70 pounds and 2 feather beds, and now you are stiffer than a woman who would have 100 pounds. It is too much talk the whole of you have. A rope, is it? I tell you, the whole of this town is full of liars and schemers that would hang you up for half a glass of whiskey. People there are you wouldn't believe as much as daylight from, without you'd get up to have a look at yourself. Killing Jack Smith indeed. Where are you at all, Bartley, till I bring you out of this? My nice quiet little man, my decent comrade. He that is kind and as harmless as an innocent beast of the field. He'd be doing no harm at all if he'll shed the blood of some of you at the end of this day's work. That much would be no harm at all. Bartley! Bartley Fallon, where are you? Can anyone see my Bartley Fallon?
Oh, it's hard for her to believe any such thing, God help her.
It is what I often said to myself. If there's any misfortune coming to this world, it's on myself it is sure to come. To be going about with this fork and to find no way to take it, and no place to leave it down, and I wanted to be going out of this. Is that you, Mrs. Early? It's well I met you. You've no call to be leaving the fair for a while the way I have. And how can I go till I'm rid of this fork? Will you take it and keep it until such time as Jack Smith?
I will not take it. Bartley Fallon, I'm very thankful to you.
Look at it now, Mrs. Tarpey. It was here I got it. Let me thrust it under the stall. It will lie there safe enough, and no one will take notice of it until such time as Jack Smith.
Take your fork out of that. Is it to put trouble on me and destroy me you want? Putting it there for the police to be rooting it out, maybe?
Well, that is a very unneighbourly thing for you to do, Mrs. Tarpey. Hadn't I enough care of me with that fork before this, running up and down with it like the swinging of a clock, and a fear to lay it down in any place? I wish I'd never touched it or meddled with it at all.
It is a pity indeed you ever did.
Will you yourself take it, James Ryan? You were always a neighbourly man.
There is many a thing I would do for you, Bartley Fallon, but I won't do that.
Okay, there's no man will give you any hope or any encouragement for this day's work. It's something agrarian now.
Well, if no one at all will take it, maybe it's best to give it up to the police.
There'd be a welcome for it with them, surely.
And it is to the police Kitty Carey herself will be brought.
I wonder now who'll take the expense of the wake for poor Jack Smith.
The wake for Jack Smith?
Why wouldn't he get a wake as well as another? Why would you begrudge him that much?
Red? Jack Smith dead? Who was telling you?
The whole town knows of it by this.
Do they say what way did he die?
You don't know that yourself, I suppose, Bartley Fallon. You don't know he was followed and that he was laid dead and with a stab of a hay fork?
The stab of a hay fork?
You don't know, I suppose, that the body was found in the 5-acre meadow?
5-acre meadow?
It is likely you don't know that the police are after the man that did it.
The man that did it?
Oh, you don't know, maybe, that he was made away with for the sake of Kitty Carey, his wife.
Kitty Carey, his wife?
Oh, and what have you to say now, Bartley Fallon?
To bring that fork here and to find that news before me? It is much if I can ever stir from this place at all, or reach as far as the road.
Look, boys, at the new magistrate and Joe Muldoon along with him. It's best for us to quit this.
That is so. It's best not to be mixed in this business at all.
Bad as he is, I wouldn't like to be informer against any man.
I knew this district was in a bad state, but I did not expect to be confronted with a murder the first fair I came to.
I'm sure you did not indeed.
It was well I had not gone home. I got a few words here and there that roused my suspicions.
Oh, so they would too.
You heard the same story from everyone you asked.
The same story. Or if it was not altogether the same, anyway, it was no less than the first story.
What is that man doing? He's sitting alone with a hay fork. He has a guilty look. The murder was done with a hay fork.
That's the man, they say, did the act. Bartley Fallon himself.
He must have found escape difficult. He is trying to brazen it out. A convict in the Andaman Islands tried the same game, but he could not escape my system. Stand aside, don't go too far. Have the handcuffs ready. Here, my man, do you know anything of John Smith?
Of John Smith? Who is he now?
Jack Smith, sir. Red Jack Smith.
Where is Jack Smith?
Where is he indeed?
What have you to tell?
It is where he was this morning, standing at this spot. Singing his share of songs. No, but lighting his pipe. Scraping a match on the sole of his shoe.
I ask you for the third time, where is he?
I wouldn't like to say that. It is a great mystery, and it's hard to say of any man. Did he earn hatred or love?
Tell me all you know.
All that I know? Well, there are the 3 estates. There is limbo, and there is purgatory, and there is...
Nonsense. This is trifling. Get to the point.
Maybe you don't hold with the clergy so. That is all the teaching of the clergy. Maybe you hold with the old people. It is what they do be saying, that the shadow goes wandering, and the soul is tired, and the body is taking a rest. The shadow? I was nearly sure I saw Jack Smith not 10 minutes ago at the corner of the forge, and I lost him again. Was it his ghost I saw, do you think?
Conscience struck. He will confess all now.
His ghost to come before me. It is likely it was on account of the fork. I to have it, and he to have no way to defend himself the time he met with his death.
I must note down his words. I warn you that your words are being noted.
If I had run faster in the beginning, this terror would not be on me on the latter end. Maybe he will cast it up against me at the day of judgment. I wouldn't wonder at all of that.
At the day of judgment.
It was soon for his ghost to appear to me. It's coming after me always by day, it will be. It's stripping the clothes off in the night time. I wouldn't wonder at all at that, because I am an unfortunate man.
Tell me this truly. What was the motive of the crime?
The motive, is it?
Yes, the motive, the cause.
I'd sooner not say that.
You better tell me truly. Was it money?
Not at all. What did poor Jack Smith ever have in his pockets, unless it might be his hands that would be in them?
And any dispute about land?
Not at all. He never was a grabber or grabbed from anyone.
You will find it better for you if you tell me at once.
I tell you, I wouldn't for the whole world wish you to say what it was. It is a thing I would not like to be talking about.
There is no use in hiding it. It will be discovered in the end.
Well, I suppose it will, seeing that mostly everybody knows it before. Whisper here now. I will not lie. Where would be the use? Don't be putting the blame on the parish, for such a thing was never done in the parish before. It was done for the sake of Kitty Carey, Jack Smith's wife.
Put the handcuffs on. We have been saved some trouble. I knew he would confess if taken in the right way.
Handcuffs now, glory be. I always said if there was ever any misfortune coming to this place, it was on myself it would fall. Oi, to be in handcuffs, there's no wonder at all in that.
Telling lies, the whole of the people of this town are telling lies as fast as a dog will trot, speaking against my poor respectable man, saying he made an end of Jack Smith, my decent comrade. There is no better man and no kinder man in whole of 5 parishes. It's little annoyance he ever gave to anyone. What in earthly world do I see before me? Bartley Fallon in charge of the police. Handcuffs on him. Oh, Bartley, what did you do at all?
Oh, Mary, there's a great misfortune come upon me. It is what I always said, that if there is ever any misfortune.
What did he do at all, or is it bewitched I am?
This man has been arrested on charge of murder.
Whose charge is that? Don't believe them. They're all liars in this place. Give me back my man.
It is natural you should take his part, but you have no cause of complaint against your neighbours. He's been arrested for the murder of John Smith on his own confession.
The saints of heaven protect us. And what did he want, killing Jack Smith?
It is best you should know all. He did it on account of a love affair with the murdered man's wife.
With Jack Smith's wife? With Kitty Carey? Oh, I'm the traitor!
He's a traitor.
Great shame indeed. He's a traitor indeed.
To America he was bringing her, Mrs. Fallon.
What are you saying? Mary, I tell you.
Don't say a word! I won't listen to any word you'll say! Oh, isn't he the treacherous villain? Oh, and Godale!
Be quiet till I speak. Listen to what I say.
Oh, sitting beside me on the Ascar coming to town, so quiet and so respectable, and treachery like that in his heart.
Is it your wits you have lost, or is it myself that has lost my wits?
And it's hard I earned you, slaving, and you grumbling and sighing and coughing and discontented, and the priest wore out anointing you with all the times you threatened to die.
Let you be quiet till I tell you.
You to bring such a disgrace into the parish, a thing that was never heard of before.
Will you shut your mouth and hear me speaking?
And if it was for any sort of fine, handsome woman, but for a little fistful of a woman like Kitty Carey, that's not 4 feet high hardly, and not 3 teeth in her head unless she got new ones. May God reward you, Bartley Fallon, for the black treachery in your heart and the wickedness in your mind and the red blood of poor Jack Smith that is wet on your hand.
The earth under morning and ban, then loud shall he cry for the wife of the red-haired man.
Jack Smith's voice! I can know a ghost to sing before. It is after myself and the forky is coming. Let one of you give him the fork, and I will be clear of him now and for eternity.
Oh, the Lord have mercy on us, Red Jack Smith, the man that was going to be waked.
Is it back from the grave you are come?
Is it alive you are? Or is it dead you are?
Is it yourself with all that's in it?
Is it letting on you were to be dead?
Dead or alive, let you stop Kitty Carey, your wife, from bringing my man away with her to America.
That's what I think. The wits are gone astray on the whole of you. What would my wife want with bringing Bartley Fallon to America?
To leave yourself, and to get quit of you, she wants, Jack Smith, and to bring him away from myself. That's what the two of them had settled together.
Well, I'll break the head of any man that says that. Who is it says that? Huh? Was it you?
No,
Was it you?
no, what?
It wasn't I.
Tell me the name. Tell me the name of any man that said it.
It was her that said it.
It was him that said it.
All right, let me at him till I break his head. Let me at her. Let me at her. Oh, isn't he the pleasant sort of scarecrow for any woman to be crossing the ocean with? It's back from the docks of New York he'd be turning, with a lie in his mouth and treachery in his heart, and another man's wife by his side, and he passing her off as his own. Let me at him, can't you?
Policeman, put the handcuffs on this man. I see it all now. A case of false impersonation, conspiracy to defeat the ends of justice. There will be a case in the Andaman Islands. There was a case in the Andaman Islands, a murderer of the Mopsa tribe, a religious enthusiast.
Oh, so he might be too.
We must take both these men to the scene of the murder. We must confront them with the body of the real Jack Smith.
Right the head of any man that will find my dead body.
I'll call for more help from the barracks.
It is what I am thinking. If myself and Jack Smith are put together in the one cell for the night, the handcuffs will come off him and his hands will be free and murder will be done that time surely.
Come on. Curtain. Okay. Let's take another break till, I think we can take till 2:30.
Okay, on break till 2:30. That was delightful. Just sort of a demonstration that miscarriages of justice and fake news are nothing new.
Well, the
How
danger
easy
of
it
gossip.
is to go from Ireland to the working class of London. Sorry about that one. Turn Cockney for one word.
Yes, the different accents can. But yeah, that's quite. And of course, the magistrate just lock everybody up. Yes.
Are you working today, Paul?
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Really?
I'm off from the. Yeah. It's been. Still don't get to. They have to retrain me to recertify me to drive a postal vehicle because I had a little accident with one of them, and nobody was hurt. It just sort of got the running board jammed under the wheel and I couldn't move it. So it shut down a street and they had to do it. So, but what happened was this happened like 4 months ago, over 4 months ago.
You shut down the whole street?
Yeah. It was just a little street.
I'm impressed.
Yeah. Well, it was because there was a restaurant. And so it had one of those built out for outdoor dining. And I hit the edge of that. So that was, but anyways, the post office, and I was working out of not the Bloomfield post office, but the Montclair post office, and they never filed the report. So they can't retrain me because they haven't filed the report. And it's sort of like, it was only after like 4 months that I found out that they hadn't even filed the report on it. So it's insane. I can't do it. So usually on Sundays we deliver Amazon packages.
Jesus, Paul, this sounds like one of Larry Gelbart's early MASH scripts. I can't even follow the bureaucracy you're talking about.
Yeah. It's nuts. And I just also our local post office has redone a lot of the routes, which they haven't done in like 10 years. And a lot of the people are very unhappy because the routes have gotten longer. And yet, while most of the routes have gotten longer, there are a few routes they made shorter. It's like, what are you thinking? So
gerrymandering.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, well, you're just the carriers who deliver to these routes. We don't need your input in the best way to set them up. So
I hate to say it, but I think all of that's getting worse.
Yeah, I know.
I got a video to send you. The pub at the bottom of the hill where I live has the outdoor setup thing. I'll send it to you. This car in the snowstorms like winter ago went slamming into it and then drove off, knocked the whole thing off. If anybody had been in there, he just drove off. And unfortunately, the cameras that caught it, unlike all those TV cop shows, they couldn't zoom in and get the license plate, so the guy got away. Might be a woman.
Yeah. It's
it probably is. You know how they drive.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting. I mean, with the end of the first one with the Shaw, I mean, it's sort of kind of sexist ending for Shaw, who I think of generally as sort of a feminist. But I think this is one of his earlier. Is this one of his earlier plays? I don't really know.
I don't know.
Well, David just came back. David's the man who knows. David, is this one of Shaw's earlier or later or middle plays?
Well, it was written during the First World War, so
it wasn't. Yeah, it was fairly well middle.
Yeah, he wrote it as a comment on the war.
Yeah. No, I was just sort of commenting on the ending of it. Just felt to me a little sort of kind of sexist, like, oh, men will be happier going to war than having to put up with their wives and women.
Yeah. Actually, I think the date was 1915, actually.
Yeah.
So just
But,
not too far into the war.
Yeah, that was, as Americans, we think of it as such a short war because we were only there for 2 years.
Right, right.
But
Oh, listening to this stuff about the Ukraine, there's another Larry Gelbart line actually that Hawkeye is saying that he used to love reading Hemingway because he wrote so well, but now that he's in a war, he said, I can't understand why anybody would willingly come to one of these, come to a war.
Hmm.
Yeah, even to get away from a fishwife.
Yeah, I don't get it with men and these war things.
yeah,
We can always leave it to Shaw to take a point of view that's going to be contrary to what other people are going to take. So
Yeah, this is true.
You know, it's weird, Paula.
I think he had one tongue in his cheek, his tongue in his cheek when he was talking about that stuff. Because
You know what's weird, Paula, is I do get it,
I mean,
unfortunately. I mean, I wouldn't act on it, but I get it. And I don't know if that's a guy thing or what, but I can feel that
Well, it's
blood-
certainly
the
keeps
blood
happening
pumping.
over and over and over. So clearly there's something that is very basic that's going on.
I think there is, if you watch little babies, infants, they're very aggressive when they're unhappy. It really is a first instinct.
Yeah,
Man, they'll, if they're given the chance, they'll destroy their little brother who took their toy. I mean, rip them to shreds.
well, there's certainly something to be said for being able to defend yourself.
Papa Freud said it beautifully. Properly channeled and socialized, infant aggression becomes adult assertiveness. But I really think a lot of Western cultures have gotten really confused about anger, especially in men. So there's no room for it. And people grow up very inhibited, which is why I have a career. There is a place for it. It's you can't get rid of it. It's very built in. It's biological, but it has to be socialized and channeled and all that. But I don't think you can stamp it out.
No, I don't think so either. But if you watch the popular films or television shows, they're all about conflict. There's so many that are so popular. Even something as benign as all the Hogwarts things, the Harry Potter things, they end up having a war too.
yeah.
Yeah, well, because it's also, I mean, it's for one thing, I mean, for stage purposes, I mean, sword fights and great battles are a lot of fun and exciting to see.
They are fun.
It is, it's unfortunate. And I mean, I think there's, it is just because we're used to doing it that way. We still made lots of guns. And so, once you built the hammer, every problem looks like a nail.
Yeah, true enough.
So I mean that's why it's, I mean, it's too bad that, I mean, I think that, I mean, our State Department was really trying to do a lot, and Russia was just sort of pretending like they're doing diplomacy, but just always going to do what the hell they wanted to do. And I just, it's.
Well, that's the problem with disarmament, isn't it? Everybody's afraid to disarm because they don't trust the other guy.
Yeah.
Well,
What's
that's
scary is they don't have the
Definitely
same
rightly
checks
so.
and balances we have here. In one paranoid episode, who knows what buttons he could push?
Yeah. Oy.
And on that cheerful note,
Let's go back to a gentler. Well, this play is a gentler time and a far more gentle play. Lord Dunsany's, he did write some plays that were set in Ireland. This play is set in London on a fashionable London street, say upper middle class. And we find a house with a caller standing on the doorstep, faultlessly dressed, but without a hat. At first he shows despair, then a new thought engrosses him.
Excuse me a moment. Excuse me? But I'd be greatly obliged to you if you could see your way. In fact, you can be of great service to me if you...
Try to do what I can, sir.
Well, all I really want you to do is to ring the bell and go up and say that you've come to see the drains or anything like that, you know, to get hold of my hat for me.
Get a hold of your hat.
Yes. You see, I left my hat behind, most unfortunately. It's in the drawing room, that room there, halfway under the sofa at the far end of the door. And if you could possibly go get it, why, I'd be... What's the matter?
I don't like this job.
Don't like this job, but my dear fellow, don't be silly. What possibly harm can...
That's what I don't know.
But what harm can there possibly be in a simple request? What harm does there seem to be?
Oh, it seems all right.
Well, then?
All these crack jobs do seem all right.
But I'm not asking you to rob the house.
Don't seem as if you are, certainly. But I don't like the looks of it. What if there's things what I can't help taking when I gets inside?
Here, I only want my hat. Here, I say, please don't go away. Here's a sovereign. It will only take a minute.
What I want to know...
Yes?
...is what's in that hat.
What's in the hat?
Yes, that's what I want to know.
What's in the hat?
Yeah. You aren't going to give me a sovereign.
I'll give you 2 sovereigns.
You aren't going to give me a sovereign and rise it to 2 sovereigns for an empty hat.
Oh, but I must have my hat. I can't be seen in the streets like this. There's nothing in the hat. What do you think's in the hat?
Well, I'm not clever enough to say that. But it looks as if the papers was in that hat.
The papers?
Yes. Papers proving, if you can get them, that you're the heir to that big house and some poor innocent will be defrauded.
Look here, the hat's absolutely empty. I must have my hat. If there's anything in it, you shall have it yourself, as well as the £2, and only get my hat.
Well, that seems all right.
That's right. Then you'll run in and get it?
Seems all right to me. Seems all right to you. But it's the police, what you and I have got to think of. Will it seem right to them?
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Yep.
What a helpless fool you are. Look here.
I got you there, mister.
Oh, look here, for goodness sake, don't go. Excuse me, sir. Excuse my asking you, but as you see, I'm without a hat. I shall be extraordinarily obliged to you if you would be so good as to go get it for me. Pretend you've come to wind the clocks, you know. I left it in the drawing room of this house, half under the sofa at the far end.
All right.
Oh, thanks so much. I'm immensely indebted to you. Just say that you've come to wind the clocks, you know.
I don't think I'm very good at winding clocks, you know.
Oh, that's all right. Just stand in front of the clock and fool about with it. That's all they ever do. I must warn you that there's a lady in the room.
Oh.
Oh, but that's all right, you know. It's just walk past up to the clock.
But I think, if you don't mind, as there's someone there...
Oh, but she's quite young and very beautiful, and...
Why don't you get it yourself?
That is impossible.
Impossible?
Yes, I have sprained my ankle.
Oh, is it bad?
Yes, very bad indeed.
I don't mind trying to carry you up.
No, that would be worse. My foot has to be kept on the ground.
But how will you get home?
Well, I can walk all right on the flat.
I'm afraid I have to be going on. It's rather later than I thought.
Oh, for goodness sake, don't leave me. You can't leave me here without my hat.
I'm afraid I must. It's later than I thought.
Oh, excuse me, sir. Excuse my stopping you, but I should be immensely obliged to you if you would do me a great favor. I have unfortunately left my hat behind while calling at this house. It was half under the sofa at the far end. If you could possibly be so kind as to pretend you have come to tune the piano and fetch the hat for me, I should be enormously grateful to you.
But why cannot you get it for yourself?
I cannot.
If you would tell me the reason, perhaps I could help you.
I cannot. I can never go into that house again.
If you have committed a murder, by all means tell me. I'm not sufficiently interested in ethics to wish to have you hanged for it.
Do I look like a murderer?
No. Oh, of course not. I'm only saying that you can safely trust me. For not only does the statute book and its penalties rather tend to bore me, but murder itself has always had a certain fascination for me. I write delicate and fastidious lyrics, yet strange as it may appear, I read every murder trial and my sympathies are always with the prisoner.
But I tell you, I am not a murderer.
Then what have you done?
I have quarrelled with a lady in that house and have sworn to join the Bosnians and die in Africa.
Oh, but this is beautiful.
Unfortunately, I forgot my hat.
You go to die for a hopeless love, and in a far country. Oh, it was the wont of the troubadour.
But will you get my hat for me?
Oh, that I will gladly do for you. But we must find an adequate reason for entering the house.
You pretend to tune the piano.
Oh, that unfortunately is impossible. The sound of a piano being unskillfully handled is to me what the continual drop of cold water on the same part of the head is said to be in countries where the interesting torture is practiced. There is...
But what are we to do?
There is a house where kind friends of mine have given me that security and comfort that are a poet's necessity. But there was a governess there and a piano. It is years and years since I was able even to see the faces of those friends without an inward shudder.
Well, we'll have to think of something else.
You are bringing back those unhappy days, the romance of an age of which the ballads tell us that kings sometimes fought in no other armor than their lady's nightshirt.
Yes, but you know, first of all, I must get my hat.
But why?
I cannot possibly sit in the streets without my hat.
Why not?
It can't be done.
But you confuse externals with essentials.
Well, I don't know what you call essentials, but being decently dressed up in London seems pretty essential to me.
A hat is not one of the essential things of life.
I don't want to appear rude, but my hat wasn't quite like yours.
Let us sit down and talk of things that matter. Things that will be remembered after 100 years. Regarded in this light, one sees at once the triviality of hats. But to die, and die beautifully for a hopeless love, that is a thing one could make a lyric about. That is the test of essential things. Try and imagine them in a lyric. One could not write a lyric about a hat.
I don't care whether you could write a lyric about my hat or whether you couldn't. All I know is that I am not going to make myself absolutely ridiculous by walking about in London without a hat. Will you get it for me or will you not?
To take part in the tuning of a piano is impossible to me.
Well, pretend you've come to look at the radiator. They have one under the window, and I happen to know it leaks.
I suppose it has an artistic decoration on it.
Yes, I think so.
Then I decline to look at it or to go near it. I know these decorations in cast iron. I once saw a pot-bellied Egyptian god named Bes, and He was meant to be ugly, but he wasn't as ugly as those decorations that the 20th century can make with machinery. What has a plumber got to do with art that he should dare to attempt decoration?
Then you won't help me?
I won't look at ugly things and I won't listen to ugly noises. If you can think of any reasonable plan, I don't mind helping you.
I can't think of anything else. You don't look like a plumber or a clockwinder. I can't think of anything more. I've had a terrible ordeal and I'm not in the condition to think calmly.
Then you will have to leave your hat to its altered destiny.
Why can't you think of a plan? If you're a poet, thinking is rather in your line.
If I could bring my thoughts to contemplate so absurd a thing as a hat for any length of time, no doubt I could think of a plan. But the very triviality of the theme seems to scare them away.
Then I must try and get it myself.
For heaven's sake, don't do that. Think what it means.
I know it will seem absurd, but not so absurd as walking through London without it.
I don't mean that. But you will make it up. You will forgive each other and you will marry her and have a family of noisy, pimply children like everyone else. And romance will be dead. No, don't ring that bell. Go and buy a bayonet or whatever one does buy and join the Bosnians.
I tell you, I can't do without my hat.
What is a hat? Will you sacrifice for it a beautiful doom? Think of your bones neglected and forgotten, lying forlornly because of a hopeless love on endless golden sands. Lying forlorn, as Keats said. What a word! Forlorn. In Africa! The careless Bosnians going past by day, at night the lions roar, the grievous voices of the desert.
As a matter of fact, I don't think you're right in speaking of it as a desert. The Bosnians, I believe, are only taking it because it's supposed to be the most fertile land in the world.
Oh, what of that? You'll not be remembered by geography and statistics, but by golden-mouthed romance. And that is how romance sees Africa.
Well, I'm going to get my hat.
Think. If you enter by that door, you will never fall among the foremost Bosnians. You will never die in a far-off lonely land to lie by immense Sahara. And she will never weep for your beautiful doom and call herself cruel in vain.
Hark! Oh, she's playing the piano. It seems to me that she might be unhappy about it for years. Oh, I don't see much good in that.
No, I will comfort her.
Oh, I'm damned if you do. Look here, I don't mind saying I'm damned if you do.
Calm yourself. I do not mean it that way.
Oh, what on earth did you mean?
I will make songs about your beautiful death. Glad songs and sad songs. They shall be glad because they tell again the noble tradition of the troubadours, and sad because they tell of your sorrowful destiny and your hopeless love. I shall make legends also about your lonely bones, telling people how some Arabian men, finding them in the deserts by some oasis memorable in war, wonder what loved them. And then, as I read them to her, she weeps, perhaps a little. And I read instead of the glory of the soldier, how it o'ertops our transitory...
Well, look here, I'm not aware that you've been introduced to her.
A trifle.
It seems to me that you're in a rather undue hurry for me to get a juba spear in me. But I'm going to get my hat first.
I appeal to you in the name of beautiful battles, high deeds, and lost causes, in the name of love tales told to cruel maidens and told in vain, in the name of stricken hearts broken like beautiful heartstrings, I appeal to you. I appeal in the ancient holy name of romance. Do not ring that bell. You will marry. You will sometimes take a ticket with your wife as far as Paris. Perhaps as far as Cannes. Then the family will come, a large sprawling family as far as the eye can see. I speak in hyperbole. You'll earn money and feed it and be like all the rest. No monument will ever be set up to your memory. But let there be graven in brass upon this house. Romance was born again here, out of due time, and died young.
Anything wrong here?
Everything's wrong. They're going to kill romance.
This gentleman doesn't seem quite right somehow.
None of them quite right today.
Oh my God! They're playing a duet!
He seems a bit wrong somehow.
You should have seen the other one.
Curtain. Cute little piece, huh?
That was great.
Yes.
That was great.
Poor guy just trying to do the simplest thing, and he meets one weird person after everyone's weirder than the next. That was Python-esque. That was great.
That was lovely.
Clinton, what inspired you to put on the fez?
It's so good.
I was like, okay, I felt like we should have hats because it was like everyone else in London has hats. And then it was like, I was thinking of the poet and I was talking with my husband and we were looking through our hats.
That's genius.
And he was like asking me what type of poet he was. And I was like, well, he's a romantic.
I thought it was perfect, frankly.
And he was like, oh, well, the fez.
Yeah.
And then I was like, and then after I put it on, and then I was like reading through it, and I was like, oh my God, he like talks so much about like his obsession with Africa and like the imperialist love that he has. And I was like, yes, it totally makes sense.
Yeah.
It absolutely did. That chemistry, you guys. It was like a great, well, you know, like the best sketch comedy. It's just two people trying to make their point.
Yeah.
Couldn't be mismatched.
Yeah. And just both working for the objectives and just being totally, it's like, oh, well, yes, it'll be less trouble to go back, go in, try and get the hat and end up married, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Each of them makes sense in their, you know, insular way.
yeah, well, terrific job, everyone. Anybody else got any sorts of observations on these three? Yeah, really, really great, diverse. Thank you, David, for these.
Thank you, David.
This is good.
Place.
So, there's so much
Thank
fun
you, David.
stuff like this.
Thank you, David.
I was kind of surprised.
Bless you.
Oh, I was kind of surprised in the O'Flaherty piece that it ended so kind of sketch comedy. You know, because they brought up such deep, interesting stuff about war and about being Irish, and then it kind of ends with a punchline. It took me aback when I read it.
Shaw is quite capable of doing something like that.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe that was a way to sort of put all of this stuff in, but then I'll make it acceptable. I'll give you that, so that then they'd like, oh yes, just by instinct will applaud, and they'll sort of, I don't know. I mean, it was interesting. I mean, I think in a lot of ways that Shaw, because he was so brilliant, that some, and I think one of the things is sometimes, I mean, that his great characters, he sort of overcomes that, but I mean that there's sometimes I can feel that he's almost too smart for his own good.
Yeah.
Well, what he really is, I can see him finishing that play with a twinkle in his eye.
Yeah.
Because he had a lot of mischief in him, and I think that you know.
Yeah.
And he may have had a time limit.
Yeah, I was gonna say he might be just like, got to make this a one act. Let's just have him fight.
Yeah. One of these days we'll do his full length Irish play, John Bull's Other Island. Which is full of mysticism as well as humor.
Well, that's
full of mysticism.
Well,
But I could just see somebody standing over him saying, You know, come on, George. Cut it now.
Yeah.
We need it. Finish.
He does go on a bit.
I think I told you that Lawrence Langner was visiting Shaw near the end of his life and talking about doing radio versions of various plays and suggesting that Shaw do his and saying, well, my plays are so long, for that purpose. And somebody said, well, they've been doing Shakespeare and they trim Shakespeare. And he says, my dear lady, it's all very well for Shakespeare, but to trim Shaw, it's sacrilege.
Right.
Bye, Anna.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you all so much.
Take care.
So we next I haven't really don't have much of a March schedule other than the things obviously we have coming up on March on the 13th and the 20th. On the 13th, I guess it's going to be Arms in the Man.
Right.
And then on the 20th, the Good Natured Man. So even though it's
fingers crossed.
Yes, hopefully
On that one.
this will happen. So I know it's